Well, hello, my farmer friends. It is Corinna again. Hope you guys are doing well. Want to welcome you to this episode of our Marketing Minute Makeover. And in today's episode, I am going to share with you some tips for how to get out of the promotions tab. And I hear my cat deciding to show up for this video right now. That's awesome. Hey, bud. So I don't know how up to date these statistics are, but I have read that 450 billion emails are sent out every day. 85% of them are considered spam. And that means that 1 in 4 emails sent by brands never even get to their destination. And when you hear those statistics, I know that it makes it almost look like, why are we even trying email marketing? And does it even work? And I know that's one of the things that I hear a lot from my farmers when I talk about how much I use email and how valuable it's been to me. I get a little pushback and I hear people say, well, you know, how do I get email to actually end up in the inbox? Because it seems like so often it goes into the promotions tab and I don't want to be sounding salesy and spammy, and I get all that. So I'm just, if you've ever wondered that, I want you to give me some kind of emoji in the comments below. But I totally understand that fear as well, because it can be really scary to sit down and write this email, to spend all this time, and then it only ends up, it ends up in people's promotions tab. They don't even read it. And you're like, why did I waste my time? So I have a tool that I use called Convertkit. It's one of kind of the better email service providers. Having a good email service provider definitely makes a difference. But even I have emails that end up in promotions tabs for some of my customers. So I totally understand that. So we all want deliverability. And so today we're going to be talking about what can we be doing on the proactive end to ensure that more of our emails are getting into the inbox. We're never going to get 100%, guys, but there are some things that you and I can be doing better to make it more likely. And that is what today's episode is all about. So deliverability is actually a really complex thing. And I know I have some farmers or some people in this group that are way more techie than I am and probably have a lot of comments they could leave and say, well, Corinna, you forgot to mention this and you didn't talk about this and it's way more complicated. And I agree. I'm not pretending to be a techie expert today, but I am sharing with you stuff that I learned about 1.5 years ago when I was beginning to dive into email marketing through some of my courses, and I have kind of instituted some of these changes and I have seen a difference. So I want to kind of share that with you today to kind of help you do some quick fixes to help it make it more likely that things will end up in the right inbox. All right. So before we share like the very specific tips that I do, I want to just kind of make sure you understand there's kind of like 3 principles that I think you need to understand that were new to me when I first kind of got into this email marketing thing. So first of all, you need to understand the concept of sender reputation. That's right, you actually have a sender reputation. I didn't know that. I just was sending out emails. I just thought, oh, it goes into people's inboxes. No, you're actually getting scored every time you send out communication through email. Email service providers, they can talk a really good game about being awesome at deliverability, but at the end of the day, the responsibility kind of falls in your lap as the sender. And there are things that you can be doing to make sure that your sender reputation is high. So if you bring a bad sender reputation to the table, even the best email service providers are not going to be able to overcome that. And a good sender reputation is what keeps you out of the promotions tab, all right? The higher it is, the more likely you are to end up in the inbox. The less likely you are to be labeled as spam. So how are you increasing your sender reputation? Here's the thing, your reputation improves every time your subscribers interact with your emails, okay? So there are opportunities for your score to go up every time you send out an email, as well as to go down. And they go up when your customers, your subscribers interact with the email. When they do things like this, these are considered positive interactions. Opening your email, you get points. When they add your sender name to their address book as a step after they get your email, you get points. If they click on a link in your email, if they scroll through your email, somehow someone's able to detect whether that's happening, whether they forward your email reply to your email, and move it into a folder in their inbox. You get points for that as well. So now that you know kind of like what the scorecard is, you can kind of identify that list and think about, okay, what can I do to encourage those behaviors as I write, okay? So the more of those actions they take, the better your reputation, and the opposite is also true. The fewer of those actions that are taken, the lower your score goes, okay? So you want to be paying attention to the structure, some of the technical sides of how you're writing as well. Now, here's what you don't want to happen. You don't want people to mark your email as spam. That's like really bad. You don't want them to not read your emails at all. That counts against you. Not click anything in your emails counts against you. And obviously not delete your emails without even opening them. Those are all negative strikes. Listen, that happens to me every week. I know there are people who don't open my emails, and that's okay. As long as more people are doing the positive things than the negative things, you're going to be okay. All right. But I wanted to just help you understand that there's this concept of sender reputation out there, and that you have to pay attention to that reputation. You can get that reputation to increase by kind of meeting these things on a scorecard. Okay. All right, principle number 2 is just this idea that somebody is clearly scoring your emails. And that was a little bit of a disturbing concept for me to just, still don't understand how it all works, but the internet gods out there are somehow able to flag your account. They're able to tell what's in there by reading the code and all the fancy stuff behind the words that you type in. They can see what's in there and somehow designate whether this is spammy or not spammy. So just be aware that whether you know this or not, whether you mean to be counted as a spammer or not, someone is actually filtering or going through your stuff and paying attention to behaviors, how your customers are reacting to it, and scoring you, okay? So we need to be paying attention to things like buzzwords, how your email is actually structured, how often it's getting opened, things like that. We're going to go into more detail in a minute. All right. Principle number 3 is that your open rate matters. Your open rate matters. I found this online. It said top webmail providers have stated that they look at how many emails are opened and how many are deleted without being opened as a factor in their spam filtering decisions. So that's affecting our sender reputation. So when we really wrap our heads around that, it does matter that we're sending out helpful content, that we are getting people to actually open it. So that is a key principle that we need to understand. And we're trying as email marketers to do whatever we can on our end to get that email opened. Okay. Principle number 4 is a high quality list will increase your sender reputation. Quality trumps quantity. Now, this wasn't always the case. It used to be that your reputation score was based on how many email addresses you had on your list. And so that's why there was this huge rush for people to get as many emails as they could. They would even go and buy email addresses because it would make it more likely for them to get their stuff in the inbox. And now that is no longer the case. Quality trumps quantity. So high quality means people who are performing those positive actions that I just mentioned before, who are interacting with your emails in a positive way. So it's really tempting for us to want to brag about our list and be like, well, how many people do you have on your list? Oh, well, I've got 5,000. Well, that somehow maybe makes you seem like you're a more successful operation. That is not necessarily the case. It is, you can have companies with, a much smaller list of like 300 really active, engaged customers, and they will put the 5,000 person list to shame if those 5,000 lists, if that's really not a strong list, okay? So it's more important for you to have a true list of people who are engaged than it is to have a lot of people. So just hold on to that. If you don't have a lot of people on your list, that's okay. Let's make sure that we come up with some strategies to keep that list quality, okay? So those are kind of the key overarching principles. At the end of the day, it's the subscriber who matters more than us. And the spam filters and the internet gods, that are out there, they're trying to protect the interests of the person who's going to be reading those emails, of the customer, not so much of people like us who are sending them. So just keep that in mind. All right, so how can we protect or increase that sender reputation? How do you get people to want to open those emails? What can we be doing to structure those emails differently? And this is where I'm going to share with you kind of some of the tricks of the trade that are recommended out there. I'm not doing all of them, but I am doing quite a few of them. So if you want to take some notes, maybe try to make it a goal like to fix a couple of these, because some of them are quick fixes. So number one is talk like you would to a friend. So how you write these emails when you do write matters. And I have a video on like just copywriting tips for emails in general. I'll link that down later so you can watch that. And one of those tips is just that, to kind of pay attention to how you're speaking. You don't want to sound super formal, but emailing your list should feel like you're talking to a friend. You know, emails that you actually want to read. So when I opened my email inbox to prepare for this, I was just kind of looking at my email inbox, and I saw that I have an email from the state and federal posters. I don't know if you guys, get those reminding you to get your next federal law labor poster. I had a receipt from Amazon. I had an email that was my church newsletter. I had one that was from Amy Porterfield asking me to join and purchase her new product. And then I had an email from my former interim superintendent when I was on school board of schools, just catching up. It was Christmas time, right? And he's catching up with me. So guess out of that list, like, which one am I going to be most excited to open first? It's going to be the one from my friend, right? From the superintendent of schools. And it was just kind of talking about how things are going. Like, that's the one I want to open. So just kind of keep that in mind. Like, we want to be writing as if we're a friend. We want it to feel like a little casual, so that when they see that we're in the inbox, they're actually looking forward to opening it. All right. The second tip is that you need to lead with value. You need to make your emails interesting. So you want people to open them when they see your name. So if you've got content in your emails, if you've trained your people that your content is boring and there's really nothing in there that they had to open it to get, then they're going to learn that they don't really need to open it all the time. So that's where this content marketing kind of gets interesting. So you can give stuff away. You can have like freebies that you have a regular habit of giving to them. You could have, maybe you've made a video and you have a link to that video, like, hey, watch this video. This is going to teach you something. So they always know, oh, there might be a cool video in there this week that I might want to watch. Maybe you just have a really great story where you just encapsulate them with some awesome story that has a metaphor or a lesson that you've learned from it at the end. People love stories. And sometimes even just taking a stand on a controversial issue, like people like polarization, I've noticed too. So that's also sometimes something you can try. But just the point is, you don't want to make boring emails, okay? You want people to be like, I want to open that because, man, every time I do, it seems like there's something interesting in there. So that's just something to think about as well. Tip number 3 is to use double opt-ins. Now, if you're like, Corinna, I have no idea what that means, I'm going to try to explain that to you. A double opt-in form, this is referring to the subscribe form that people come through to even get on your list. Maybe you have a freebie or a lead magnet where they go onto your website, they want to get this lead magnet, they give you their email address and their name. A double opt-in is where they don't just automatically get the freebie because they filled out that form. They actually have to go into their inbox and click on a button in the email that says, yes, I am confirming my subscription. I really did want this. And only after they take that second step do they get added to your email list. That's called a double opt-in. And I know in Convertkit, I don't think it's required, but they highly recommend whenever I set up a form that I turn it into a double opt-in. There's a reason for that, because this prevents like bots and anybody else just from coming onto your website and subscribing and becoming kind of a fake lead and making your list not really a true list. So you want to make sure this is a real person who really wants your stuff. And the second step of making them say yes twice, I really want this, kind of in their minds makes them remember you, that yes, this is somebody I want to get content from. And it makes it more likely for them to open your emails in the future because they have already said yes twice. They've committed to you twice. All right. This is a true lead, person who really wants your value. So creating these ways to get on your list using double opt-in forms is I think a really, really important strategy. Don't just let it be a simple thing where you subscribe and they don't have to do anything else and they're on the list. Okay, number 4, this is huge. You need to clean your list. You need to clean your list. Practice list hygiene is what they talk about in the internet marketing space. And boy, this is a really, really big one. When is the last time you ever cleaned your email list? Let me know. I want to know, because up until 1.5 years ago, when I started learning this, I had never cleaned my list. Aside from the occasional, like, obvious one where I became aware that this was not a working email because it was bouncing. Oh my gosh, that's my cat again. Go down. I would never clean my list. So there is a kind of a procedure for how to do that, but it's really important that you're keeping your list clean. Here's the deal. In their spam filtering algorithms, providers are looking at the ratio of active to inactive email accounts on your list to decide about your sender reputation. An inactive email account is an account that hasn't been used in a long time, or it's very rarely used. And so if you are mailing to a large number of addresses that appear to be inactive, or they're nearing abandonment, like they're not getting open, that's going to flag you as a potential spammer, okay? Here's some other bad signs of an email account, of a bad email account. Duplicate addresses. How many of your customers send you, subscribe? You got the same one twice, or a slight version that's like a little bit different. How many of you have disabled email address, or like the email doesn't exist, so it comes back? A full inbox. I know that I run into that every once in a while, where it comes back because their inbox is full. Addresses that have the improper structure, so they're technically on your list, but it's just not correct. Misspelled addresses, bounced addresses, all right? So all of these things need to be cleaned off your list. This is called pruning the list. If you allow those to continue to add up, they're scoring against you because of that whole ratio thing. So we just need to keep our eye on that and come up with kind of a regular time, a couple times every year, where you're looking into that. You also need to be cleaning your list and pruning your list of cold audience members. So over time, you're going to have subscribers who used to be really into you, who wanted your content, who were learning stuff, and then eventually over time, they're just not as interested and they're not opening. Maybe they've grown and you've already transformed them and you can't really help them anymore, and that's okay. That's okay if that happens. The thing is, you don't want those people on your list anymore if they aren't interacting with you, if they've moved away and they're just not even, they're not going to buy from you anymore. Remember, it's quality over quantity. So the number of spam complaints are not measured against your total list, but they're measured, let me read that again. The number of spam complaints aren't measured against your total list of subscribers, they are measured against your active portion of your list. So how do I do this? Twice a year, I do something called a re-engagement campaign, and I'll do a separate video that really walks you through how to build that inside of Convertkit, and I'll show you exactly what to say. There's not enough time to do it right now. But this is basically 3 emails, a drip campaign that I set up, and I subscribe my cold subscribers to this twice a year. And they go through this, and if they don't click on a link inside this email sequence, they get tagged a certain way, removed, and then eventually removed from my list. As long as they're not a customer. I also run it through a filter to make sure none of them are my customers. So that is something I do roughly every 6 months. And I just did it about 2 weeks ago, and I have to tell you, it was a little bit of a sting because I lost around 250 email addresses. Now, granted, a lot of my email addresses are actually farmers, so that's not indicative of people who are necessarily in my CSA funnel, but that's a lot. That was a little bit of an ouch, and it hurt my ego a little bit too. But here's the thing, I've noticed already that my email open rates are higher, the percentages are higher, because I've removed all those people from the big audience that were never opening them in the first place, whether they were going into the promotions tab and they never saw it, or whether they just stopped opening them. So remember, those aren't real statistics, those big numbers, inflated numbers. So coming up with a pruning strategy, having a re-engagement email drip campaign that you send out twice a year is a good way to just keep control so that your number is a true number of subscribers, a quality list, okay? Here's another tip to help you. You need to learn how to write good email headlines. Why is that important? Because The job of the email headline is to get someone to click and open the email. That is the only job of the email headline. It is not to try and explain everything that's in there, issue them the offer. It is just to get them to open it, okay? And then the job of the body content of the email is to do that other stuff. Okay, so I have a whole training on email headlines and how to write good email headlines. I'll make sure I link that down below in the comments after this video. But I do spend a fair amount of time after I write the content of my email each week on crafting an email headline because I know how important it is for that statistic, the open rate. I want it to get opened, right? Because that counts as a positive interaction towards my sender reputation. Now, I will also say you don't want to be clickbaity and you don't want to be misleading because if they read something like this is from the president, like, obviously you're not the president. If it sounds spammy and looks spammy that way, or if someone opens it and feels like, ooh, I just got misled, and they mark it as spam, then that counts against you. So obviously you want to be careful and not be clickbaity, but there are ways to write email headlines to intrigue people and pique their curiosity or drive urgency so that they'll want to do it. My next tip is that you need to expect some unsubscribers. Don't be afraid of unsubscribers. Oh, so many people are like, I don't want to start email marketing, Corinna, because people are going to just think I'm talking too much and they'll unsubscribe. Listen, the people who really love your product and believe in you, they want to hear from you. Now, not every day, I'll grant you that, but they want to hear from you. So don't be afraid to talk to them. If they don't want to hear from you, then they should not be on your list. Then we should get them off and we should be glad that they want to unsubscribe, okay? So don't be afraid if you see some unsubscribes every time you send something out. That is normal. And as long as it isn't this massively high number, you're okay. And it's actually probably a good thing that you're kind of self-pruning your list. It's actually against the law to hide an unsubscribe link. You need to have an unsubscribe link according to the CAN-SPAM Act. You need to have one in all of your emails. Usually, I know Convertkit just automatically puts it at the bottom. I think most email service providers do. But there needs to be an opt-out link clearly visible somewhere so that if somebody wants to get out of this, they can. I know there's been a couple of situations where I've been subscribed to a list and I've just been like, I'm sick of getting these newsletters. I don't want them anymore. And I have tried to find the unsubscribe link and I couldn't find it. And I did get annoyed. I was like, I should be able to find a way to stop this, and I can't. I was angry. And I think I did actually say spam. I was like spam, and I hit the spam button, right? So just be aware that you want to have that in case people want the option to leave. One way, though, that you can kind of lessen the blow is you could set up within your email service provider. I know Convertkit does this too. You can offer subscribers, instead of just this blanket option of like, hit this unsubscribe and you're out of my list forever, you could offer them like to change their preferences. So maybe it's like, hey, if you don't want to get all of these emails, maybe you just want to get the ones that are about such and such topic, checkbox, click this checkbox. So there are ways to set up a kind of a customized unsubscribe link that allows people to just simply change their preferences and then instead of just flat out leaving your list. All right, my final comment here is that if you are getting a lot of unsubscribes for whatever reason, you'll want to use that as an opportunity to kind of ask yourself a few questions like, am I boring people? Am I annoying people? So ask yourself, do I need to modify my send frequency? Do I need to modify my send date or send time? Maybe I need to look at how I just change my content, what I'm writing about, or maybe the formatting of the content. Some people really, really love getting like newsletter format emails. I personally do not, but I know there are some people who really prefer that. So, but I tend to, when I see that it's, from honestly, like from my church and it says newsletter, I usually don't open it because I'm like, oh, it's just going to be this big newsletter format thing. And I just want to know, I would probably respond better if it was a simple text message from my pastor. So it just kind of depends, I guess, on what people are like. But, you just kind of want to look at if people are unsubscribing, maybe it's just the formatting of how you're putting it together is turning people off. All right. My next tip, you want to be consistent. This is a big one that I didn't know. You want to be consistent in your email scheduling. I don't know if that makes sense, but what I mean by that is the timing of when you send your emails needs to be consistent. I did not know that that is something that spam filters grade you on and something that they use to help decide whether you have a good or bad reputation. Now, if you follow me at all, you know that I talk a lot about how important it is to send a weekly email out or a bi-weekly email out. I guess it's not so important that it's weekly, it's that it's consistent. And more importantly, that it's on the same day, because that is kind of a signal to the people, the spammers and the internet gods that are watching your emails that, oh, she consistently writes on this day. This is legit. This is for real. Okay. If you're all over the place or you only do it like once every 4 months, they're like, alarms go off and they're like, whoa, suddenly big push for emails here going out to 700 people. This may be salesy, okay, maybe spammy. So if you have a rhythm of consistently sending something out on the same day and time, that goes a long way and it helps your reputation. All right. So make your broadcast times consistent and predictable. All right. The next tip is to use better email templates. Now, the rules of engagement matter. The internet eyes can flag your content if it's breaking certain rules of like the templates of emails, okay? So things like this, like watch the words that you use. There are buzzwords that flag your account, especially in your subject line, but again, also in the content of your email. I don't know how they do it, but they're able to read that, see those buzzwords somehow when they're filtering your stuff. So I didn't write out all of them, but like 2 obvious ones would be free. Like if you use free a lot in your emails, then you're probably spamming and trying to sell something to someone. Order now, just like on Facebook. Like I don't know if you know this, but when you do Facebook ads, there are certain words that you should not be using in your ad copy because they're like more expensive words. They show Facebook that this is a certain kind of post. And so you kind of have to learn what those magic words are so that you find another way. Like you don't want to say subscribe here in a Facebook post because that's a buzzword. You have to find another way to basically say, I want you to join this forum, right? So it's the same in email. There are buzzwords. So knowing what those are and trying not to use them a ton. You also want to avoid things like all caps and tons of exclamation points in your subject lines, for instance, or in your emails themselves. Because that sets off alarms. Too many color fonts, like all those things. But just imagine those spammy emails that you've seen, right? Like and tons of emojis. Like those are signals that this is not a legit email. Another thing that you should think about is giant images. So if you just send a huge picture with hardly any text in your email, that is a major red flag. Don't ever do that. You want to have more text than you do picture. For your emails as well, because that gets flagged. And then there are some kind of technical side rules. You always want to include your physical mailing address. Some of this comes from the CAN-SPAM Act, actually. You're supposed to have your physical mailing address in there. You always need to include a from address. You need to have an unsubscribe option. And then anything that has like JavaScript in there, that's seen as junk. So you don't want to be like putting embedded forms or like interactive content inside of that, because that just, again, it's Convertkit likes to talk about it as if it were a water balloon, that you're trying to squeeze a water balloon into a paper towel tube. Like you've got all this like fancy images and videos and you're trying to squeeze it in a tube and it causes it to burst. Like that's going to raise flags and it makes it less likely to get into the inbox. This is another one that kind of hit me. Don't attach things to your emails when you're sending them out in large masses. If you have a big file, you're better off putting it as a link inside of your email. And that's actually what I do now with our newsletter. I make my newsletter look really gorgeous using a software tool. I just actually use Pages. And then I upload it to my website as a PDF file. And then I link in my email, I link people to the PDF file on my website so they can download it from there, as opposed to attaching it. So it's not this massive file attachment that will flag an account. All right, so that was just kind of some technical stuff, just watching your templates. And again, Convertkit, some people say, well, the downside to Convertkit is that it's a text-only email. They don't have like newsletter templates, but they have actually a reason for why they do it that way. So I am a total big believer in that. I do usually put one image that I've compressed into my email, and then I comment about it, and people can click on that email or on that image, and it takes them to a video oftentimes. But that's as fancy as I ever get. Don't use one big image. Oh, we already talked about that. I'm going to skip that one. Break down if you have a large list, like in my case, yesterday I sent out an email, I think to like 1,400 people. And rather than sending a broadcast to 1,400, separate it into 2 chunks so that it's only going out to 700 at a time. So you would do 2 different sends. You only need to do this if you have a list that's like over 1,000. That's kind of the threshold where they recommend this. And here's why. Doing so is going to mean that the spam complaints that you receive when you send your email won't come in as one giant mass, right? It's not going to be this huge number because you've sent out smaller batches. And so it's not going to trigger the same alarms. Now, it's inevitable that, I think every single email I send, I always have at least 1 or 2 unsubscribers, okay? And so that's inevitable. You're going to have loyal subscribers that decide, I'm done. And like I said before, don't be afraid of that. You just don't want huge amounts to come back all at once. So if you're sending them in bursts, that's less likely to trigger that alarm. And then finally, I think I have a couple more actually. Something proactive that you can do to up your score is to create some kind of a welcome email series. So when someone first joins your list for the first time and they subscribe to a form, you have an opportunity to make a first impression. And in many cases, they really want to hear from you. They're eager to hear from you because they're excited about something they just downloaded. They're intrigued, they're curious. And so you have an opportunity to make a good first impression in that first week by sending them a couple of emails or maybe 3 emails that drip out over that week welcoming them. And so I actually have created a welcome email series. I have a video training all about that, what kinds of stuff you would put in there. And this in that welcome series, I have like a freebie that I give out to people and just builds goodwill. And here's what happens. They're more likely to click and open those emails because they're excited about meeting you and getting to know you. So now if you've got somebody that's just opened your email 3 times in that week, you've just increased your reputation score. So putting in some mechanisms into your email strategy that will create good first impression with your customer, but also do good things for your reputation score is a good idea. All right. All right, and then, is this my last one? This is my last one. You want to get yourself into their contact list, all right? You want to get yourself on their email contact list, their address book, essentially. Once a user has added you into their contact list, you will always end up in their inbox, okay? That's like a little trade secret. So you want to be using every opportunity you have to encourage people on your list to add you as a contact. You can put it in that email sign-up confirmation email, that first email, that welcome email series. You can put it on the confirmation page that they first see, the thank you page after they subscribe. You can just say, hey, put me in your contact list to make sure you get my stuff. And you could say something like, hey, ensure that you continue to receive quality information from me, or if you want to make sure you keep getting stuff from me, you got to put me in your contact list. Go do it right now, okay? So that's something, again, you can put on your thank you page or in some of those emails. You can even be putting it in regular emails that you're sending, just reminding them, put me in your contact list. This is really, really huge, and there's actually a process that I go through where I teach people how to whitelist my email address. It's called whitelisting. In other words, get me off the blacklist if I am on the blacklist. So I have I think it's in the first email of my welcome series where I give them some calls to action. And the first call to action is, I want you to whitelist my email. And then I explain what that means and why they need to do it. And I give them the 2 steps that they have to do to actually do that. Because if you say whitelist my emails, people are going to be like, I don't know what that means. But if you break it down into steps, it's like drag this email into the inbox, or, go into your contacts and put my address, my from name right here. You actually walk them through what that means. Then they'll know. If you want to know exactly what the verbiage for that is, you can just Google how to whitelist emails or instructions for whitelisting emails, and you will get the step-by-step instructions. And then you just copy and paste that and put that into your emails. All right, so that's it. Those are some really practical tips for you that you can be doing as you're putting emails together to make sure that your sender reputation goes up and you have a greater chance of getting into the inbox and not the promotions tab. And remember, the goal is not to get out of the promotions tab 100%. That is not ever going to happen. But you wanna raise your percentage significantly, right? You want people to be getting those emails. So these are things you can do to make that more likely. Now, if you are looking for a new email service provider that has a great reputation for deliverability, I want to recommend Convertkit to you. Drip is another really good one. MailChimp is fairly good as well. They have a pretty good reputation. Although I've heard some farmers say that they feel like a lot of their stuff goes in the promotions tab. But I love Convertkit because it is primarily a text-only email. It does give me the ability to put pictures in, which I appreciate. But what I love about Convertkit, I've tried several email service providers, is that it is so intuitive and easy to use. It is not confusing, and I hate sitting down and being confused about how to build tech tools and put them together. I want to build a drip campaign. I want to figure out how to put a cool looking form up on my website. I don't want it to be hard. And I know how many farmers struggle with tech. And so when I'm thinking about if I'm going to recommend an email service provider tool, it's got to be one that's simple and easy. But here's the thing, it's also robust. It is powerful. And it is known as one of the best email service providers for keeping things out of the promotions tab in general. It's just built really well. So if you're interested in looking for one, if you already like your email service provider, do not switch. It is a big pain in the butt. Well, it just takes time. But if you don't have one, like if you're just using Gmail and you're ready to kind of graduate to the next level, look at Convertkit, look at Drip. I'll put the link down below for Convertkit. I am an affiliate. I'm going to be totally honest, so I do get a kickback if you join. But I was promoting this before I even knew about affiliate marketing. So I love this tool. It's really easy. And I'm also going to include a link to a video where I do a demo of Convertkit so you can kind of see, behind the scenes of my email service provider, what it looks like, how I use it, just to kind of get an idea. You'll see how very simple it is. That's it for me. Michelle, you said there's an online tool to help with headlines, but I can't remember the URL. Man, if you could look that up, you should put it in here, put that in the comments, and I'll put that on the YouTube channel if you can get in here in time. So thanks for joining me, guys. I really appreciate you guys joining me. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up or an emoji or something. And if you're watching this later on YouTube, because I will upload it there, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click the bell so that you can get notified anytime I put a new video up here on YouTube. I would love that. Share your comments below. Thanks so much for joining me. And check us out at mydigitalfarmer.com. Thanks, guys. Bye.